Should you go to college to study aviation? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Coming up.
Cessna 25 Delta, straight departure, runway 31 left, clear for takeoff.
Aviation, what is going on? Welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be discussing one of the most highly controversial topics in the aviation industry, and that is whether or not you should be attending a university flight school or not. Before I dive into it, I want to take a moment to educate those who may be unfamiliar with the main types of flight schools. So we have two main types of flight schools. We refer to those as Part 141 and Part 61 flight schools. All we're referring to are the federal regulations in which that school is able to teach their pilots under. An easy way to remember this is that Part 141 flight schools have more of an association with the FAA, and the difference between Part 141 and Part 61 is that the different requirements and minimums pilots have to make to get the same certificates and ratings is different. So why does all this matter? Well, you clicked on this video because you want to know if you should go to a flight school at a university or not. And the majority of flight schools in the United States that are at a university operate under Part 141, opposed to your local airport's flight school that most likely operates under Part 61. Let's go over a few pros and cons of the two and see which one is right for you. Typically, Part 141 flight schools are much more cookie cutter dry. And what I mean by that is they're much more structured. So you're going to be flying this amount of hours in this airplane at this time and take your test at this time. You're typically going to learn things in a very specific order that the flight school teaches everybody in that same order. The difference is Part 61, where it's much more flexible. If you're a full-time student and you want to be a full-time flight student, then Part 141 might be better for you. But don't get ahead of yourself, because 141 can also overwhelm students. It's a much more fast-paced environment. Part 61, on the other hand, is more laid back and more relaxed. It gives you more freedom, but it also will most likely take you longer to get the same ratings and certificates. One of the biggest pros of going to an accredited 141 college is that you're eligible to receive a restricted ATP. So, well, what is an ATP? An ATP stands for Airline Transport Pilot License. Basically, that's your airline license. It's pretty self-explanatory. That is the license that you need in order to get hired by an airline in the United States. Also, many corporate jobs, but don't quote me on that because there's many exceptions, and you could do your research on that if that's what you're interested in. But down the airline path, you're going to need an ATP license. In order to get an ATP license, you need to be 23 years old and have 1,500 hours of total time. What a restricted ATP is it allows you to get that same license, but at 1,000 hours instead of the 1,500. 500 hours is a lot of flight time. That could take somebody 6 to 8 months to get, even longer. So if you want to get to the airlines fast, which I'm sure most of you do, because as we all know, seniority is everything in the airline industry, then a restricted ATP may be pretty appealing to you. Now let's talk cost, because at the end of the day, we can only do as much as we can afford. And sure, you can take out loans, but how much debt do you really want to be in? Typically, Part 141 flight schools and universities that offer a flight science or bachelor's in aeronautical science, whatever they're called, typically cost a lot more money than you getting those same ratings at a Part 61 flight school at your local airport. Of course, you get a degree with that. And in the airline industry, do you need a degree? Well, on paper, a lot of airlines don't require a degree anymore, and more are getting rid of that requirement. But does it give you the upper hand? Well, my opinion is yes. If you and another pilot have the same qualifications, you both have the same amount of hours, same amount of multi-time, same amount of cross-country time, but you have a degree and the other person doesn't, I think they're going to pick the person with that degree. And of course, you could say a million different things of why they would or why they wouldn't, but that's just my opinion. And I'd love to hear your opinion, so feel free to drop that down in the comments section. I'd love to respond to you. Now, there are a million different universities that offer flight school at their college. There's a website and there's a list of all the accredited 141 flight schools. I'm going to put that in the description. That is a super helpful tool. You'll be able to see every college in America that offers an aeronautical science degree or a flying degree, basically. You'll be able to see their requirements, all the links to their websites, and what they offer. Make sure to click that link. You'll learn a lot. You'll see which one's for you. But right now, let's talk about some of the big names in the game. We have Embry-Riddle Daytona Beach, which I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've heard of Embry-Riddle. We have Purdue University, which is another big flight school. And we have the University of North Dakota, which again, I'm sure all of you guys have heard of. So those three schools each charge you about $250,000 or more to train and get your ratings with them. Now, you can go to a 61 flight school and get those same exact ratings and be just as qualified for a quarter of the price or less. But what justifies that price? Well, that's for you to decide. I'll just tell you some of the things that they offer, and then you could decide if it's right for you. So going to a 141 flight school, they're most likely going to have airline partnerships. All the big schools typically have partnerships with regionals or majors or even legacies, where you can get accepted into a cadet program where essentially once you meet the requirements, they already give you a job at that company. I know the Delta Propel program is a really great program. Basically, once you graduate from college and meet the time requirements, you work for one of the three choices that they have, and then in 42 months or less, you're at Delta Airlines, which is awesome. I'll put a link to that also in the description, so check it out. But basically, those colleges offer those flows, you could say, with airlines that 61 flight schools don't. But is that worth $200,000? I just don't know. That's for you to decide. Another option for flight training is ATP Flight School. So ATP is a Part 141 flight school, and it's basically the same as a university, but it's a fast track. So they advertise that in, I forgot the exact number, but it's something like 8 or 9 months, you can go from 0 time to a commercial pilot, which is crazy. That is so short. But with that comes a cost. I think their school costs $80,000 or $90,000, which really isn't bad opposed to the $250,000 that big aviation college charges. But talk about cookie cutter. If you like fast-paced learning environments, that maybe that's for you. But they are so fast-paced, if you don't understand something, too bad, they're moving on. So you really need to be on top of your game if you choose something like that, and you need to be able to adjust to fast-paced learning environments if that's not for you. And if you're more of a slow learner and you need things to be explained more, I would reconsider going to ATP, but that's definitely an option. I'll put a link to them in the description as well. If you are new here, my name is Luke and I'm 15 years old. I'm a student pilot, and my channel is all about documenting my journey from student to professional pilot. I'm going to show you videos of all the airplanes that I fly, my flight training, me flying with friends and people I meet, and getting to tour some bigger stuff and possibly even flying in it. If you see that Hawker in the background there, I made a video on that. If you want to go look inside of that and talk to the pilots of it, make sure to check out the video. Click right here. If you enjoy that kind of content, how about click that subscribe button, smash the thumbs up button, share this video with a friend. I love to see the growth of this channel. It's really awesome. I hope to continue to make these videos for you guys. I upload a video every Saturday morning. Every Saturday morning there's a video up for you guys. With that, I want you to stay proficient, stay current, keep the blue side up. We'll see you in the next video.